Good morning and welcome back to Fox and Friends. 24 minutes after the hour, some breaking news coming in overnight. A cop killer has now been captured after a tense 12-hour standoff in Palm Springs, California. Police say that a known gang member, John Felix, opened fire on two police officers who were responding to a domestic disturbance call. One of the officers, Jose Vega, was a 35-year veteran of the force and a father of 8 children. The other, Officer Leslie Zerenby, a brand new mother to a 4-month-old baby girl. A third officer who is injured is now recovering in the hospital. Felix faces 2 counts of murder, and we are praying for those families this morning. Matthew weakens to a post-tropical cyclone. That's what they call it now. Rain and wind still whipping coastal communities as that storm begins to move north off Carolina's coast. A trail of destruction left in its wake across the southeast part of our country. Many folks there now assessing the damage after record-breaking flooding caused by storm surge. Cities left underwater. Take a look at this. By the hurricane that killed at least 10 people in the United States. We'll bring you live team coverage in just a few minutes. Those are your headlines. Let's head back out to Steve Doocy. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Heather. Live from WashU here in St. Louis with just hours to go before the second debate. Donald Trump vows he's not going anywhere, and his fans have one response to the Donald. There he was in front of Trump Tower yesterday on Fifth Avenue. Folks there loved him. But what about the rest of the Republican Party, and how's he going to handle the heat on stage tonight? He's going to get some, probably from Hillary and the moderator. Here to weigh in is Republican from Alabama, the senator there. He's also a Trump advisor. Senator Jeff Sessions. Good morning to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Welcome to St. Louis.
Good to be here. It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. A complicated day. You were at Trump Tower Friday night after it hit the fan. Tell us what that was like.
Well, I was there after they began to discuss it and came into the room, and we discussed it. Somebody reported that I advised him to pull out. That is not so. I absolutely did not do that.
Was anybody, there's the tweet that you're referring to, it says, here Trump huddled in meeting at Trump Tower with Rudy, Newt, and Jeff Sessions. Source says Sessions arguing Trump should consider dropping out. So that's not true.
No, and I don't,
was anybody saying that?
Rudy and Newt weren't even there when I was there. I don't know what, I don't even think they were in the building that day, Friday. Okay. So no, that's not correct. But I do think it's time for the Republican leadership in this country to take a deep breath. This thing is overblown, Steve. Everybody knows that Trump likes women. He uses this kind of talk. He's been on Howard Stern show, for over years. So this is not a disqualifying event. But what is to me being overlooked is the power of the WikiLeaks on Hillary Clinton, who says she believes in open borders, and she says one thing to the public and another thing to private financiers and supporters and big money people. Mm-hmm. And that is that explains why we have this lawlessness at our border. It is her deep philosophy that we have a Western Hemisphere union like the British got out of in Europe, and that it has open borders like Europe where you move completely freely.
Well, you know what, Senator, if Donald Trump tonight does what you just did, where you addressed the issue, said it was a terrible thing to say, and turn it around on Hillary Clinton and this WikiLeaks thing, I mean, this would be the story we were all talking about, this document dump of 2,500 email from WikiLeaks. Apparently they also have 50,000 in all. We'd be talking about this had that Billy Bush tape not shown up.
Well, I think we need to give Donald Trump a chance to do that. People need to slow down in some of their comments and really think about it. We're at a point in time when we're going to have a choice for this country. On immigration, if we don't do it right this time, it's going to be too late. If we don't fix the trade problem in America that he has courageously pushed back on and exposed, that could be too late for us. And so I think it's a big deal. There's a host of issues out there that the American people care about, and once focused on that, I think he could see his numbers go right back up as he's done before.
Well, let's see if he does pivot and go back to open borders for a while. Donald Trump has only been in the politics business officially for about a year now. You've been in politics for a very long time. You've seen how effectively people can get themselves out of a jam. What does Donald Trump need to say tonight? Just kind of, sketch out the script of what he should say? What are the words, the buzzwords? Imagine you're Frank Luntz for a second.
Well, you know, he has to be himself. And I think he will be. He's never denied who he is. He's never denied how he approaches business and life and people. So he needs to be himself. He needs to apologize clearly. He needs for the American people to know that he understands this kind of talk is unacceptable, and he has to stop it. And then he's got to refocus this whole question on what you want for America.
Sure.
What direction do we want to go? The policies have worked for him. Twice he's been down. Twice he's come back to lead. Now he's down again, presumably. I think he can move toward November on these issues, focusing on the choice the American people face for their jobs, for their personal security, and those kind of issues.
All right, Senator Sessions, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good
nice to have you here in St. Louis today. All right, meanwhile, we've been talking about it all morning, twin scandals rocking the campaigns ahead of tonight's debate. So who's got it worse? Tucker Carlson apparently brought a marching band. The guy's got class. Don't stop believing. You've got the pet band for WashU, and we've got some cheerleaders. Let's just talk to some of the kids real quick. What's your name?
I'm Reed Kalish.
He told me a moment ago, I said, anybody ever call you Ringo? And you said?
Yeah, my dad.
Love those dads. I asked over here because, keep in mind, it's 45 degrees. It's a little chilly, right? And I said to you, is that a French horn? Stupidly. And it's
a euphonium.
Okay, I had no idea. This is
a marching French horn.
A marching French horn. Does anybody have a non-marching French horn? All right. And this young man right over here, this guy right here, come on, move in. What's your name?
My name's Ahmed.
Okay, I love the way he takes the mic. I said, whose horn? Because it's a little on the chilly side. It's a little too cold for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty cold-hearted, so you already know.
How do you warm up that mouthpiece?
Just have fun. Blow into it and, like, just let it go.
Just like that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on over and talk to some. Good job, Ringo. All right, let's come on up here. And we've got all these people. These ladies were actually here very early today. And you know what? You look like somebody who would be having a special day.
It's my birthday today.
It's her birthday! What's your name?
Chandler.
Okay, and what are you studying here at WashU?
Political science and German.
Really?
Yeah.
So are you studying politics in Germany?
A little bit, actually.
How cool would that be? Good. Yeah. Let me ask you one quick question. What are you looking for tonight?
To watching the debate.
Okay. Do you have a favorite?
I mean, both candidates. It'll be interesting to hear both candidates speak.
All right, very good. Would you like to give a little... Ainsley and Brian are live in New York right now. Would you like to give them a little cheer?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and action.
Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears!
Yeah!
Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears! All right, Bears! All right,
It's the home of the Bears, if you hadn't figured that out.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Chandler. I liked her politically correct answer.
Yeah.
Which candidate do you like?
Good answer.
It's going to be interesting.
Right. Hey, you know another guy, Steve, why don't you come back to the stage because Tucker Carlson's here. He dressed up for us, combed his hair, same side as earlier in the show. Tucker, welcome back.
Yes. Oh, it's great to see you, Brian.
Tucker, I watched you in the morning, and I know you had to have instant analysis about what took place on Friday night, so I'm watching you yesterday to get your take. What are your thoughts 24 hours later? Because Donald Trump says, I'm staying put. You saw what happened in Wisconsin where everyone back, you know,
right.
Paul Ryan was on stage. He basically got booed for telling Donald Trump not to show up. And then that scene outside Trump Tower. Do you sense it might not be as bad as originally thought?
Okay, so just to bring us back to core principles here, the thing that matters in politics is voters. That's all that matters in a democracy. And we have a new poll this morning on the attitude of Republican voters to Trump. Now, I don't think anyone disputes what he said is creepy and weird and off-putting.
It is.
But 75% of Republican voters want their party to stand with Trump. Only 13% want the party to abandon Trump. That's a pretty clear message. I think the Republican establishment in Washington is sending a similarly clear message to Republican voters, which is, we don't like you and we don't care what you think. We don't like the candidate you supported in the primaries, and we're not sort of interested in you and in your views. And I think that, I mean, I understand the divide. They have different interests, the Republican establishment and Republican voters. But I think by sending that message to voters, I think they're guaranteeing a permanent split in the party after this election is done a month from now.
Tucker, let me ask you this. You said that 13% would like to see him bow out. Would that parallel probably the number of never Trumpers?
It might.
Are these the people that said, I told you?
I think it's a little bigger, actually, than the number of never Trumpers. I mean, I think people are legitimately upset about that video, and I was upset about the video. Any person who watched was upset about it. But what do we do next is an entirely separate question. And basically, the Trump campaign was never about Trump's moral rectitude. There's nobody supporting Trump because they think, you know, he'd be a great babysitter for your kids. They're supporting him because they agree with him on a couple of issues. And he may be right on those issues. And to the extent the Republican establishment forgets that, I think they do themselves harm.
Ainsley?
Tucker, how does he recover from all of this? What does he need? If you were advising him, what does he need to do tonight to recover from all of this? And can he recover?
Yeah, I mean, look, far be it for me or anyone else to say we know what's going to happen. I mean, there's only a month left. On the other hand, there's a month left. That's 30 days. This is a very volatile moment in American history, and it's been a very volatile race as a result. So, look, it's going to be tempting and emotionally satisfying to make the point that Hillary Clinton has no standing to criticize anyone else on these issues, on women's issues, and that the press, of course, has no standing either. And that's true. But you have to ask yourself, why did Trump get to this position in the first place? And again, it's because on a couple of issues, immigration, trade, corruption in Washington, globalization, he is on the side of the American middle class, and she is not. And so if he reminds voters of that, and will he be able to? Open question. But if he does, you know, I think that helps because that's why he's here in the first place.
So we look at some of the crisis management that's happening right now. So far, they were pretty quiet yesterday when he stayed out in Wisconsin. That took care of Donald Trump. Now the surrogates have decided we're all staying home except for Rudy Giuliani. They're going to sit back and watch tonight. And by the way, the Politico has a different survey. It does say 45% of Republicans, when asked, want him to stay. 39 want him to leave. So it shows relative split. The question is, Tucker, can a candidate
keep going in that,
win an election? Can a candidate win an election without so much Republican support? Is there any scenario without the Ayotts and the McCains of the world and the Susana Martinez that you can win without a foundation?
Well, I mean, let me just be clear. I think Trump is in a really tough spot, and he's got to do well tonight. All things being equal, he loses. I mean, if the election were held right now, he'd lose. So I'm not, pretending otherwise. But you also have to balance against what you just said, the fact, and it is a fact, that he's bringing in new voters. Sure, he's losing a lot. He's losing upper-income people who voted Republican historically. He's also winning, for the first time, I believe, in my lifetime, the majority of private sector union members. So there's a balance here. As he loses, he brings in. He is, I think, net-net expanding the size of the party, or was until Friday. So, the trend is the Republican Party is changing, but potentially it could be getting bigger. And I know everyone hates to hear that because it's a threat to people and it's offensive to Republicans in Washington, but it's true, or could be true.
Sure. Tucker, it's 12 hours to the debate. What are you going to do in St. Louis today?
I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to do what I always do when I'm on the road in a city like this. I'm going to eat. Most of the day is going to be spent eating.
The food is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, y'all have fun. Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you, guys.
Tucker runs stairs in hotels in street clothes. That's his exercise.
Like Rocky?
Yeah.
John Roberts does that, too.
Yeah, he gets dressed up in suits and runs stairs. All right, meanwhile, straight ahead, I'm not kidding. Hurricane Matthew downgraded, but still packing a punch. The monster storm carving a path of destruction along the East Coast, and the threat is far from over.
And St. Louis, ground zero for anti-cop protests. 2 years later, how is the city recovering? We're going to be back live in St. Louis with Pete Hegseth and Senator Scott Brown.
Wow, we are back with the Fox News Alert, and you're seeing it there. Hurricane Matthew is no more. The storm now a post-tropical cyclone. That sounds bad to me. As it continues marching up the East Coast, leaving a deadly trail of devastation across the southeast. But it could have been worse.
Well, it's still bad for a lot of cities out there, Ryan, because many of them are still underwater. Torrential rain dumping as much as 17 inches and storm surges up to 9 feet high, triggering record-breaking flooding.
Now, many people are caught in the storm's destruction. Hopefully, you're able to watch us by now and you have the electricity back. They are now out and about, a lot of people, assessing the damage. At least 10 people have lost their lives over the last week in this storm.
I know. We have live team coverage this morning. Garrett Tenney is in St. Augustine down in Florida. But first, we're going to check in with our chief meteorologist, Rick Reichmuth, who's been tracking Matthew's every move. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, guys. Still 2.5 million people without power, and there are now 6 fatalities just in the state of North Carolina. We saw almost 18 inches of rain in Savannah, Georgia, and now we have water rescues going on this morning across parts of North Carolina. The town of Pine Tops, they're going with helicopter pulling people out of their homes because the entire town is submerged underwater because of about 12 to 18 inches of rain that fell across parts of North Carolina. Those rivers are at record crests across much of the area, especially eastern parts of North Carolina. It's going to take a long time for that water to go down, so we'll see those rivers probably cresting by tonight and tomorrow in a lot of cases. So if you think you don't have flooding now, doesn't mean that the river's not going to rise as it gets towards your area. Winds are still also very extreme in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range, especially across some of the shores here and coastal locations. And we're seeing an offshore wind across Cape Hatteras. It's going to cause some storm surge kind of coming on the backside of that. Flooding will continue to be the story as we watch the rain and that water drain, but for the most part, it's pulling away from shore. The rain itself will be done in about the next 3 to 4 hours. Then we just have the cleanup and still some of those rising rivers. Guys?
All right. Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
All right, so those guys have been working around the clock trying to find out what's going on. Hopefully the power's up. Now let's go out to Garrett Tenney. He is in St. Augustine in Florida assessing the damage. Hey, Garrett.
Just this past half hour, the White House announced that President Obama has signed federal disaster declarations for both Georgia and Florida, and that will be a significant help to folks back here that are starting to come back home to scenes like this to assess the damage. Just take a look. These bricks here that you're looking at right now, well, earlier this week, this was a driveway that led up to this house. But this is a true testament to how powerful the waves and the storm surge of Hurricane Matthew were here in Florida. You can see this has been ripped apart. It has been rippled here in front of the home. Now, right here where my head is, this used to lead into the garage. And I want you to see this concrete slab right here. This used to be the floor of the garage. Now, if we come down just a little bit, you can see that's the ocean right there through here now. This garage, we're looking at everything inside. The floor, part of it is here. Other parts, they've been moved out over here to the street. Now, they just got done clearing this street from all this debris yesterday. Today is really when folks are going to start having a chance to come back in and check out the damage. And they're not getting a chance to do that in other places, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, where there is still lots of flooding. The crazy thing is, with all of this, officials are saying throughout all of these states, they were lucky with how this storm turned out. Hard to believe that when you look around at what we've got here, Brian Ainsley.
Yeah, they don't feel lucky looking around there, but I guess in the big picture they were. All right, thanks, Garrett.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, we've got a big final hour on tap for you. Howie Kurtz and Judge Jeanine Pirro both are going to join us live from St. Louis. Plus, St. Louis is ground zero for anti-cop protests 2 years later. How has the city recovered? We're going to be back there live with Pete Hegseth and Senator Scott Brown.
Parts of St. Louis became ground zero for anti-cop protests following the shooting death of Michael Brown back in 2014 in nearby Ferguson, Missouri. So when it comes to race relations and policing, which candidate is best suited to keep the peace? Joining us right now is Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth, who also played basketball in college. That explains that great shot. And Massachusetts former Senator Scott Brown. Good morning to both of you.
Yeah, I'd kick his butt.
Oh, of course you
I'm just saying.
Until we have a chance to show it, we'll see.
Well, you got to do the age thing, so do I get a couple extra points?
Oh, listen, it's always something. All right, so when you look at the issue of who can keep the peace regarding the anti-cop sentiment in this country, which has grown in the last year or two,
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think?
Well, I think Donald Trump, as evidenced by the endorsements he's received and the fact that he's talking about law and order, allowing the police officers not only to have the tools and resources to do their jobs, but do them well. And I also think there's a very important component of working with the community and developing community relations. And if you look back, and I've said it on this show and other shows, the president had an opportunity to be the great uniter, and I feel he's been a better divider in that when what happened in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Remember, the police acted stupidly repeatedly before he even knew the facts.
Well, according to the president.
Yeah.
And that led to, that led to the beer summit.
But that starts the rhetoric. It starts from the top. And now police have been on the defensive from the get-go. And are there some bad apples? Absolutely. Let's deal with it and deal with it appropriately.
And Pete, yesterday you were with the police chief here in St. Louis, where, you know, they feel the heat.
They feel the heat. He acknowledged that morale is as low as it's ever been. Violence is as high as it's been still in St. Louis. And they want, the cops on the street want to know that someone has their back, and that goes all the way to the very top. And the contrast of in this department as well as in this debate is effectively Hillary Clinton saying we need to retrain cops because of their implicit bias, right? Cops have this racist tendency. And the other side, which is, hey, stop and frisk, broken windows theory policing like Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy did,
I think when you go to the cop level, hey, they want to get tough. They want to enforce the rule of law. They want to provide safety for everybody in these dangerous
Ferguson, Missouri is about 5-6 miles from where we're sitting right here. It's going to be a topic tonight.
Of course it's going to be a topic, and rightly so. I mean, obviously law and order is very important, keeping our citizens safe. We are a country of laws, and we need to make sure that not only the good people are following laws, but the people who want to challenge laws are following the law, and the police should have the opportunity to do their jobs and do them safely.
The police chief talked about the Ferguson effect, which is real for cops. Do I pull the trigger or not, even if I think my life is threatened? We've seen some examples recently in Chicago where a cop was almost beat to death, thought she was going to die, but wouldn't pull the trigger because of the potential political fallout. You know, these unions that have supported Donald Trump, police unions, I think they acknowledge that he would reflexively have the backs of cops while outreaching to African-American communities.
Pete?
Good to see you.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, live from WashU, we've got John Roberts and Mike Emanuel on how both candidates are preparing for tonight's debate. It's Fox and Friends live from St. Louis.
Good morning to you and your family. It is Sunday, October 9th. It's debate day in St. Louis. I'm Ainsley Earhart. We're covering the story here. Donald Trump says that he is not dropping out. He's not going anywhere. As he walks out of Trump Tower, his supporters there making it clear they're standing behind him. But what about the rest of the party? And what about you? How will it all shape tonight's debate?
Then, Hillary Clinton is staying silent as the latest WikiLeaks dumps out. More brand new emails reveal two sides to the Democratic nominee, the one she shows you and the one she wants Wall Street to see. Steve.
Brian, if you think the first debate wasn't entertaining enough, watch this new interpretation.
It says here that you plan to put an appliance into dead blind people.
Well, don't think about the appliance. Sometimes everyone has to believe.
That is a nonsense answer. It's nothing.
It makes sense if I say that it does.
Well, the first debate now getting the bad lip reading treatment, and we're going to show you a little of that. Live from WashU in St. Louis, it's Fox and Friends Debate Day. Very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, live from St. Louis, Missouri, it's the second presidential debate pregame show. John Roberts there with Clyde, the Budweiser Dalmatian, and Mike Emanuel out on the trail. Good morning, guys. How are you? Take your places. Very nice, ladies and gentlemen. Some Uptown Funk live from Washington University.
And our thanks to Clyde for being a good sport on the ride over.
I was trying to get him into your chair, Steve.
I know, I saw that.
But your little camera shot.
I knew better than that. Brian, it is a beautiful weather day, Ainsley, as well, for the second debate, which now is, 12 hours away from us, right here on Fox News.
We thought a lot of people watched the first debate. I have a feeling after Friday, many more are going to be watching tonight.
Yeah, I think David Axelrod tweeted out that he goes, this debate, second debate everyone thought was going to be a fallout in ratings. He said Donald Trump took care of that. He did, especially the very opening. Yeah. I'm very curious to see the whole format and how it works out. I understand half is going to be half are going to be questions from the audience, but then the moderators can build and follow up on those questions, and then they got to divide up their other questions between each other. I understand the networks are having problems between ABC and CNN deciding who says what.
So it won't just be a fight between Hillary and Donald. It'll be a fight between Anderson and Martha. All right, we've got the two best correspondents covering the trail right now. Mike, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about what Hillary Clinton was up to yesterday, because just as important as it is for Donald Trump tonight, super important for her.
Absolutely, and she's been taking debate prep very seriously. She did another 8 hours or so yesterday at that hotel near her Chappaqua, New York home.
Wait, she wasn't resting?
Bottom line, her aide said, let's just stay out of this. Right. Let's let the Donald Trump controversy play out without us being involved. But they're saying that tonight they want her response to be, with a huge audience tonight, they expect, obviously, tonight's debate to be one of the most viewed events of the campaign cycle. And so the top lawyer of the Clinton campaign says if the Republicans are thinking of getting rid of Trump, they're convinced that they can't do so. So they think it's Trump till the finish. And so they're looking forward to tonight's showdown, as we all are.
A couple of days ago, these WikiLeaks 2,500 have been the new ones where she's out of touch. She's part of the 1%er. She's a free trader. All this stuff we never knew about. Very embarrassing. She doesn't want to talk about that. So we've heard from some of the surrogates, they're blaming Russia. Is that what she's going to say?
That's a great question. You know, we've been asking for reaction to that. They have not wanted to say much, saving it for tonight as well. But, yeah, we believe that they're going to blame Russia, saying Russia's trying to influence the election. And so the question will be, you know, what answer does she have when she says behind closed doors, Wall Street should reform Wall Street, that they know the industry best. Bernie Sanders and his supporters are not going to like to hear that answer. And so it'll be interesting to see how she sells it tonight.
Meanwhile, across the aisle, what's Donald Trump been up to?
Nothing much.
Just another slow news day.
Slow news day. I mean, he's facing what a lot of Republicans think is the biggest crisis of his campaign. He was voted to have the worst week in Washington ever, not just last week. But he's got to pivot in a way that he probably doesn't have much experience pivoting. He had to put in a good performance tonight anyways, based on what happened at Hofstra. Now the bar has been raised so high, Steve, that I don't know if he can ever clear it. But he's going to try. And what they're going to try to do is change the subject away from the scandal of the last 48 hours.
He will address it. It's not like he's going to dodge it.
I don't know how he can't. I mean, it's got to come up. If the questioners don't bring it up from the audience, the moderators are going to have to bring it up. It's the elephant in the room. Somebody's got to talk.
Will there be a more expansive apology? Some people are suggesting he needs to have another mea culpa.
You know, at the moment, it's all speculation. Nobody knows for sure. He could come out and say, by the way, on this issue, I want to apologize again about it. But the thing he has to do is he has to pivot. The campaign is trying hard to do it. And what they're trying hard to do is to pivot away from the scandal of the last 48 hours and toward what Mike was talking about, the contents of these hacked emails, this idea that she's for open borders, that she wants to have a global marketplace. And Donald Trump has made the case all along throughout the primary and the general election campaign that open borders will kill this country. Sure. Now, as for Republicans defecting and leaving Donald Trump, and they're doing it not en masse just yet, but certainly the beginning of the break in the dam is happening. We see Kelly Ayotte and John McCain and Mike Crapo and people like that saying that they can no longer vote for Donald Trump. Condoleezza Rice actually called for him to drop out. We caught up with Rudy Giuliani outside of Trump Tower yesterday after debate prep. Here's what he said about all of that.
There is nothing that is going to cause his dropping out. That's a wishful thinking of the Clinton campaign and those people who have opposed him for a long time.
You know, here's the thing for Donald Trump is if he dropped out now, it would have an effect way beyond politics.
He's not going to drop out.
No. And if he stays in and he loses, that's going to have an effect beyond politics for him as well. But I think the calculation is that you can't drop out now. He's got to go for the contest on the 8th, and he could win as well. So, I mean, there are a couple of potential outcomes. We'll see which way it goes.
You know how this is a big deal? Steve Doocy's here on a Sunday morning, all dressed up, looking good.
That's right. I actually shaved today. All right, fellas.
That tie has a life of its own.
Tell me about it. It plugs in right over there.
Good morning.
All right, John and Mike, you have set the table perfectly for us, haven't they, Ainsley and Brian?
That's exactly
Absolutely.
right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, guys, among the people that are staying with him, Gary Bauer with the Campaign for Working Families, another evangelical group. Steve Scheffler, he's with Iowa's Faith and Freedom Caucus. Tony Perkins, not happy with the comments, but staying with him, as is Franklin Graham, Robert Jeffers. These are all evangelicals, and then one stalwart, the 1996 Republican nominee, Bob Dole. He said those comments were 11 years ago. With a strong debate tonight, he could change things around.
Well, they don't have a choice. It's just like John Roberts was saying.
Yeah.
The voters have already spoken. They wanted Donald Trump. Then in the wake of all of this, we're too close to the election to make a change. And they are saying, listen, we're going to have to change the narrative. It's going to be very important to see what he says when he comes out on the stage tonight. Look at the headline here on the Post, Steve. It says, "I will never drop out." Donald Trump said that, even though some people are calling him to drop out. But for the party, the party doesn't have a choice but to keep him, because if not, then the Republicans can't win, and they might not. Yeah. They might not.
Yeah, you know, and I think he kind of, he was holed up at Trump Tower all of yesterday, and then toward the end of the day, I think because there was such a drumbeat, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? He came outside, he was mobbed by his supporters, gave a thumbs up. He's not dropping out at all. Watch this. So there you've got Donald Trump on Fifth Avenue. By the way, at one point when he was out there, a New York City police cruiser went by, and on the loudspeaker on the PA goes, "Go Trump. We support Trump." Also, Donald Trump has just tweeted moments ago, tremendous support, except for some Republican leadership. Thank you. It's been retweeted 1,500 times, and I'm able to get this kind of information when John Roberts is just sitting right there.
Right, yeah, but you know that about it, the biggest crisis of his campaign at the most inopportune possible, but inopportune moment possible. But there's so much reporting coming out, rumors that they so-called have a Trump source that says this or that. For example, it's been disputed 3 times now to me directly, is that they are not, the RNC is not redirecting funds to local races. They are staying behind it. No. But Reince Priebus is taking a lot of incoming still this morning. You, Steve, dispelled one rumor about Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, exactly. There was an MSNBC correspondent who tweeted out, his sources said that Jeff Sessions told Trump he should consider dropping out. That turned out to be a whopper. Here's the senator moments ago.
Somebody reported that I advised him to pull out. That is not so. I absolutely did not do that. But I do think it's time for the Republican leadership in this country to take a deep breath. This thing is overblown. What is to me being overlooked is the power of the WikiLeaks on Hillary Clinton, who says she believes in open borders, and she says one thing to the public and another thing to private financiers and supporters and big money people. We are at a point in time when we're going to have a choice for this country. On immigration, if we don't do it right this time, it's going to be too late.
All right, Steve, here's the thing, and Brian, going into this debate tonight, if he goes up there and he says, "I am sorry, what I said was despicable," if he really pleads to the American people and says that happened 11 years ago, I am a changed man, there is maybe a chance that people can forgive him. Exactly, say I'm sorry. But when you go to the polls, you have to look at both candidates, and you do this with every election, and you have to write down the pros and the cons maybe, and you have to decide which candidate you like the best. But if you look at Hillary's record, you can't forget Benghazi. There are 4 people that are dead that were pleading for help and more security, and she didn't provide that. You can also talk about her email scandal and her lying to the American people about that. So you have to just look at both candidates and then go to the polls and make your own decision.
But there is a story that there's Apprentice tapes that are far worse than the Access Hollywood tapes that are out there. So you don't know where this is going. It's going to be a crazy night.
It is.
All right, coming up straight ahead.
Less than 12 hours away.
Yep.
Right. Both candidates dealing with the brand new scandals ahead of this debate. So why is the mainstream media only focused on Donald Trump? Howie Kurtz is here to react live from St. Louis coming up next.
Is that thing going to run out of battery power soon?
That leaked audio tape of Donald Trump was all over the networks yesterday morning. Take a look at this.
We have to start with Donald Trump. These comments, any other person could make them. It would torpedo their campaign.
It's uncoverable.
It sounds like you're saying that Donald Trump could very well bring down the entire GOP.
I think he could.
Total disbelief. I mean, not disbelief that Donald Trump could say such a thing, but disbelief that it was out there.
That apology is not going to be enough because I've seen more authenticity in hostage videos released in that apology.
Well, how did those same outlets cover Hillary Clinton's bombshell October surprise with the WikiLeaks stuff? We'll talk to the host of Media Buzz coming up shortly on Fox News Channel, Howard Kurtz, who joins us live here in St. Louis. Good morning to you.
Hey, Steve.
There's no comparison, right? Nobody's touching the Hillary stuff, barely, and everybody's just, there's blood in the water. It's all about Trump.
Well, originally I thought there'd be a sort of a 10-to-1 ratio on the Trump tape, which obviously involves sex and women and words we can't repeat on TV, and the Hillary document showing her contradicting her public positions. It's been about 10,000 to 1. I mean, watching CNN, MSNBC last night, 60 minutes out of every hour was devoted to the Trump tape. Now, it's a big story. It's a bombshell. You got a lot of Republicans running for cover. You got Donald Trump's wife saying it's unacceptable, so we should cover it. But right now, for the media, it is the only story.
Shouldn't the media be covering? Shouldn't CNN be doing the WikiLeaks story too, and MSNBC and Face the Nation and everybody else?
Absolutely. You have two candidates in this race. Both of them had damaging revelations on the same day, Friday. But because it's Trump, because of the subject matter and everything, and also because I think a lot of journalists, a lot of pundits never liked Trump, predicted he would lose in the primaries, are taking a certain glee in this and predicting that he's going to drop out. Not that he's going to lose, but that he's going to drop out, going a little far, a little fast, in my view.
They're putting their thumb on the scale. It's one thing if you're a pundit and you're doing that, but for you said journalists are giving him a push toward the exit.
Well, I see what reporters are saying on Twitter. This is the end of his campaign, and the hint, and even some of the headlines are, is this the end for Donald Trump? Well, we've been through a lot of incidents with Donald Trump where a lot of people thought this would be the end. He's still the Republican nominee. Now, does he have a tough task here in St. Louis at the debate tonight? Absolutely. He's got to find a way to put this behind him and to apologize. And the fact that all these Republicans are bailing on him, most of them didn't want Trump as the nominee in the first place, but it adds to an aura of crisis in the GOP. So it's a big story, Steve. But it is being covered as the only story, and I think that the media are kind of taking a lot of joy in this.
Sure. Of course, there are a lot of questions about the timing. Had the Hillary Clinton email WikiLeaks dump been out there, this would have been what dominated the conversation going into the debate. But
it would have been the lead story.
Absolutely. Yeah. But mysteriously, suddenly somebody gave David Fahrenthold at the Washington Post a copy of this particular tape. He's going to be your guest coming up on Media Buzz. Is he going to tell you who he got the tape from? Because it doesn't sound like it came from NBC. It came from somebody at NBC or access to their vast video archives.
Well, I don't expect David Fahrenthold to reveal his source, but maybe he can shed some light on the timing and why NBC wasn't going to get to this until after the weekend. How do you sit on a story like this, by the way? And so somebody wanted it out soon.
They were going to get to the story. Whoever leaked it, though, just wanted to make sure it came out before the debate.
Right. But where's NBC been for the past year? This tape has been sitting in the archives. So there's a lot of curious questions here about the way in which this hit the airwaves.
And speaking of media, Billy Bush doesn't look good here.
Well, he's had to apologize. Now, there was a report in the Wall Street Journal that NBC isn't going to penalize him anyway. This guy is now a co-host of the Today Show. His credibility has taken an absolute hit. He may be collateral damage in this Donald Trump tape.
All right. Howie, thank you very much. We're going to be watching you a little later on Media Buzz. All right. Straight ahead, tonight's debate in less than 12 hours, going to give voters a clear choice. Half the questions will come from a town hall audience. So which candidate will have the upper hand? Ainsley Earhardt is here with our political panel to discuss that. They're coming up next, live from New York and St. Louis.
Good morning and welcome back to Fox and Friends. Some quick headlines starting with the Fox News alert. A cop killer captured after a tense 12-hour standoff in Palm Springs, California. Police say that a known gang member, John Felix, opened fire through a closed door, fatally shooting two police officers who were responding to a domestic disturbance call. One of those officers, Jose Vega, a 35-year veteran and a father of 8 children. Officer Leslie Zerenby, a brand new mother to a 4-month-old baby girl. A third officer who was injured is now recovering. Felix faces 2 counts of murder, and we are praying for their families this morning. Matthew weakens to a post-tropical cyclone. That's what they're calling it now. Wind and rain, whipping coastal communities as the storm moves off North Carolina's coast. Record-breaking flooding from a massive storm surge, leaving cities across the southeast underwater this morning. The president just signing a disaster declaration for the states of Florida and Georgia, sending federal money their way. That storm killing more than 10 people in the United States, with the death toll possibly rising. North Carolina's governor just announced 7 dead in that state. And a train packed with hundreds and hundreds of people flying off the tracks on Long Island in New York. It collided with equipment from a parked work train. 29 people had minor injuries. The cause of that crash is not known. Ainsley, let's head over to you with a look at politics now.
All right, thank you, Heather. Well, tonight's debate is going to give you, the voter, a voice as candidates face questions on the issues from a town hall audience. So who has the upper hand when it comes to the economy, national security, and race relations? Let's ask our political panel. Cliff Young is the president of Ipsos Public Affairs. You have Jessica Tarlov in the middle. She's a Democratic pollster. And the New York City GOP councilman, Joe Borelli. Thank you all for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, the latest information this morning. Donald Trump's up this morning. He's tweeting already, and this was his tweet. He basically is thanking his supporters. He said, tremendous support, except for some Republican leadership. Thank you. All right, Jessica, I'll start with you. What is your reaction to that?
Well, the Morning Consult polls show that only 12% of GOP voters want him to drop out. So that's what he's talking about, and he's right to. We're seeing the divide again between the average person and the establishment or the elites with all of these withdrawn endorsements. I still don't think he can recover from this, but it's a good sign for him that the immediate reaction hasn't been as terrible. But we were just discussing before this started, I think this is going to take a few days to bake in, and what happens tonight will really affect kind of how the public takes this scandal.
Joe, do you think, though, after a few days, we still have 30 more days till the election. That's a long time in politics. Do you think that people will forgive him? I mean, on Friday, people were saying no chance. And then now, we're a few days later, are people starting to forgive him? And does he have a chance?
So this Morning Consult poll indicated that 9 out of 10 Republicans are still willing to stand behind them. That includes people who are in this maybe base of support that are just extremely loyal, extremely eager to vote for him. And it probably includes people who are a little disappointed by this hot mic incident, but who still see him as a much better alternative to Hillary Clinton. If you look at 2012, he's not doing much worse than Mitt Romney did in some of the exit polls amongst Republicans who actually voted. So.
Right. Cliff, do we need to focus more on the issues and not this kind of stuff? I mean, that was 11 years ago. Donald Trump, I mean, no one said he's the Pope.
Yeah, well, he has to do both, actually. So he has to acknowledge that it happened. He has to be contrite. He has to apologize. He has to sort of cordon off that negative political fact. And he really needs to focus on the specific issues and more generally on what he represents. He's an anti-establishment candidate, bringing an anti-establishment message. He is a fixer of a broken system, supermajority support or belief in the fact that the system is broken. He's a focus on that general theme and more specifically on economy and terrorism. Those are two top issues.
Jessica, Hillary has not come out and said anything, and I don't think she will.
Well, she tweeted about it, but yeah.
Exactly, but it was a very short tweet. What did it, do you remember exactly what it said?
We can't let this man be president.
Like, very terrible or something.
Yeah.
But tonight at the debate, what does she need to say?
Well, I think that she needs to be really strong on her issues. She has increased popularity and enthusiasm over the past few weeks, certainly since the debate. She needs to talk policy, and we're probably going to have a, Alicia Machado moment where she'll find some way to bring this up. But I think it's going to be a question, whether from Anderson Cooper or the town hall format. I believe that if someone stands up and they say, Mr. Trump, I'm the victim of sexual assault. Someone grabbed me by the whatever. And I'd like you to address your comments. And when you say, yes, this was 11 years ago, but this is the same Donald Trump we've seen this whole campaign season. And I've seen a lot of activity on Twitter and columns about the fact this man warned you who he was, the way he talks about Latinos, about Muslims, about women. So, last time at the debate, he stood up, he called Rosie O'Donnell fat pig or said he wasn't wrong for saying that. This is different because it's more extreme, and what people say in private is obviously worse. But this is not surprising. This is who Donald Trump is.
We'll have to see how what the voters say in, 30 days now.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next on the Rundown, we just sent Deuce on the loose inside the Anheuser-Busch plant in St. Louis. He's going to introduce you to the man who makes sure every single bottle that you drink is perfect.
All right, 60 minutes to the top of the hour now. Hillary Clinton getting ready to speak out for the first time tonight since WikiLeaks released transcripts of the speeches she gave to Wall Street, at least some of them.
So what exactly did they reveal about her ties to the financial sector? Here to weigh in on this is Sunday Morning Futures host Maria Bartiromo. Hey, Maria.
Hi there.
Good to see you guys. We've been waiting for these transcripts for a long time. We didn't think we were going to get them, and now some of the transcripts, the speeches that she gave to the big banks is coming out.
Yeah.
What can we learn from
Well, look, I mean,
I think one thing to look at in these emails is, okay, now we understand why Wall Street is always saying things like, oh, she won't be as bad as you think she will be on the banks, and she won't be as aggressive on regulation than you think he was, because she said that. In the speeches, she basically says things like, look, I come from modest beginnings, but I've been living this rich life with my husband, and so I maybe don't relate to people who are struggling right now, and so maybe it makes sense for me to have a public and a private stance on things like trade. I mean, that is damning right there, because she was for TPP, then she was against TPP.
Maria, in any other year, this is her 47% moment.
Right.
In any other cycle, this would be impossible, almost impossible to imagine her being able to tackle and parry tonight.
It's true. But, you know, now, of course, what Donald Trump is saying is overshadowing this. Look, I think has said. I think what we talked about during the commercial break really makes sense right now, and that is this race is becoming a race of what he said versus what she did. And I think the Trump camp is going to probably come out tonight and talk about what she did with regard to pay to play in terms of the Clinton Foundation, with regard to what she said about trade, about jobs, this elitism, this globalism, which is completely contrary to what the people want. And that's why Trump has been as popular as he is.
She said recently she's not in favor of open borders, but then when you read some of these transcripts, she was in favor of open borders. Another transcript, she was preparing for a Today Show interview, and she was talking with Brian Fallon through email, and she was in support of universal background checks for talking about people who want to own guns, closing the gun show loophole by executive order, and imposing manufacturer liability.
That's right. And those emails basically give us a very clear indication of where Hillary Clinton stands on guns. Not that we're surprised. We knew where she stood, but to her to use the comment of executive order is really scary.
There's also an interaction with CBS. They want to kill a story, and they want something suppressed. And there was a comment to Secretary of State Kerry's office. They said, hey, when the Secretary of State comes up, I don't want any questions about the emails about Hillary Clinton. And they wrote back and they said, we took care of that.
Right.
As if they told the networks, you don't ask us this.
And that's basically the MO. I mean, look, she basically told the FBI, her team told the FBI, if you record this interview, she will not show up. So, yeah, they took care of it as they take care of things around. That's the problem with Hillary Clinton, and why there are so many people who are fearful of her being in the Oval Office.
I especially love your Sunday show.
Yes, thank
because
you.
I'm working when you're working during the week. Who's coming up?
Yeah, we got a great show. In about 10 minutes, we're going to talk with Jeff Sessions, obviously one of the first lawmakers to join the Trump campaign. We're going to see what he has to say as so many of the GOP are walking away. Gene Sperling from the Clinton side is coming on. Obviously, tonight it's all going to be about the debate, and so we've got the two chairmen of the debate commission. I want to get their thoughts on all of this news flow happening this weekend.
100 million. I'd say 100 million will be watching.
This is such an important debate. This is such an important election, you guys. It's just incredible. Yeah, I agree. There's going to be huge numbers.
Maria Bartiromo will be next door, but you can't get in. You're going to have to watch at home. All right, thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Hey, straight ahead, the mainstream media barely paying attention to the Clinton transcripts that we just discussed. Instead, they're staying focused on Donald Trump's hot mic moment.
So where's the fair and balanced coverage on that? Judge Jeanine Pirro is live in St. Louis. She's coming in on the golf cart. We're going to be talking to her next.
With just hours until Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton face off for the second presidential debate, both of them are dealing with brand new scandals. So why is Trump getting so much more attention than Hillary Clinton? Here to react, host of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro. Trump is getting more attention in the mainstream media because, number one, it's a big story, but number two, they hate Trump.
Well, yeah, that's pretty clear, because there is really no parallel or equivalence between what she has done and what he has said. And that is the difference. On the one hand, it's locker room garbage, frat house talk, okay? And on the other hand, with Hillary and WikiLeaks, what we have is an admission that I never really tell the truth. I say one thing to the public, one thing in private. I told the American people one thing, but I really want open trade, open borders. And, you know, it was almost as though, Steve, what they did was they waited to release the Trump tapes until WikiLeaks came out. And I think this has all been orchestrated, starting with that whole thing about Miss Universe. At the end of the debate, when Hillary brought it up, the first debate, I said to myself, Jeanine, why are they bringing this up? What they are doing is planning to create this narrative about Donald Trump and women. Now, if there are more WikiLeaks coming out, which Julian Assange has said there will be.
We've seen 2,000.
We've seen 2,000. Then you can bet your bottom dollar that Hillary Hillary Clinton and her team have a new tape every time WikiLeaks comes out so that they can suppress the WikiLeaks story and the fact that the woman lies every time she looks at us.
So what, Donald Trump has said, look, they were terrible things that were recorded on that tape. I apologize for that. We've heard from Melania. We've heard from his family members who say, that's not who he is. That's an apology of sorts. Does he need more?
There are people, Steve, who say he's got to do more. I mean, I really don't care. I mean, when's the last time? Enough. I've heard enough. When's the last? First of all, the guy's in television. He's in entertainment. He was with a guy. It was frat house, locker room talk. And, he gets off the bus in this situation and he gives an air kiss to the woman. It's as though everybody expected him to go out and assault her. The only one who's assaulted women is Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton is complicit in that assault. And if they try to turn this narrative around, then shame on the American people.
Does Donald Trump bring that up? I know there's a lot of it online right now with Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones and
all the money they've had to pay to the women that he has molested. But does Donald bring it up? I don't think he has to. I think right now that they're in the middle of a discussion, one of the last discussions with the American people. Donald's got to turn around and say, I'm going to take care of the economy. I'm going to stop ISIS that grew under her watch and just go to the issues that the American people care about, their safety. And